Monday, 2:17 p.m. I was mid-chew, leftover rotisserie chicken, fridge cold, eaten standing up in front of the sink, when the door slammed. Not closed. Slammed. I didn't even have time to swallow before I heard tires screech out of the driveway. For a moment, I thought it was a break-in. Or maybe an emergency. Then I noticed the hallway. One pair of sandals missing, blue duffel bag gone from the coat closet, and the faint ghost of her perfume still hanging in the air. There was also a note, folded twice, tucked under the salt shaker. Don't call. Back in a week. Think about how you've been acting. That was it. No context. No signature. No hearts or smiley faces. Just a slap in ink. As if this was all part of some script she and her little peanut gallery had written behind my back. I didn't move for a full 3 minutes. Just stood there, still chewing that miserable chicken, rereading the note, thinking, wait, am I being punished? Like a toddler in timeout. The silence in the house started to stretch. No footsteps, no sarcastic podcast playing from the bathroom speaker, no muffled laughter from upstairs on her late Zoom calls. Just me. And the stupid rotisserie chicken. I checked the shared calendar on my phone. There it was. Deserve time away. Don't text. Marked from today through Sunday. Color-coded in pink. I almost laughed. Like this was a vacation she earned. Like disappearing without a conversation was a valid coping mechanism for what exactly? That I didn't rearrange the spice rack? Or that I told her friends to stop leaving wine bottles under our couch cushions? I didn't know what the crime was, but apparently, the punishment was abandonment. And then it hit me. This wasn't spontaneous. No, this had been planned. Scheduled. Discussed. Probably voted on over mimosas. Because that's what they do, her council of chaotic life coaches. They don't just gossip. They orchestrate. I opened her laptop. Save your judgment. She logged into her Gmail on mine last month and forgot to log out. That's when I found it. The email chain. Subject. Operation Reset. Let him sweat. 13 replies deep. Full itinerary. Hotel confirmation. Spa appointments. Wine tasting tours. For 2. And in Candace's words, make him squirm. If he's not begging by Friday, we drive up and make sure he's replaced by Sunday. My jaw locked. That's when I stood up, walked into the guest room, pulled out the fireproof document box, and laid it on the dining table like a poker hand. Deed. Equity sheet. Appraisal. Spare key. And right then, before I could even process what I was doing, I dialed. Not my brother. Not my lawyer. Not even my therapist. I called the realtor. Because if she thought this house would be waiting for her after a week of spa selfies and manipulative silence, she had another lesson coming. I didn't expect him to answer on the first ring. Lane. Long time. Everything all right? That was Chuck, our realtor. The guy who helped us close on this house 4 years ago. Big hands, louder laugh, and somehow always smells like cedar and lemon. I paused for a second, staring at the envelope in front of me that still had the spare house key taped inside. I need to know how fast a house can go on the market, I said. Chuck chuckled like I was joking. I wasn't. There was a silence on the line that seemed to stretch across both our living rooms. Lane, you and Darla splitting up? I don't know, I said, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. But she just left for a week to teach me a lesson. And according to her inbox, she's bringing someone named Hunter to a vineyard in Asheville. Chuck exhaled sharply. You want to sell the house out from under her? I want to make it clear that I'm not going to sit here like a golden retriever waiting at the window. And I meant that. Because the more I sat in that kitchen, surrounded by quiet and spiteful perfume residue, the more I realized how far things had gone. It wasn't just this week. It was months of digs, months of snide little comments, of her friends weaponizing her patience against me. I used to think I was the problem. Maybe I still am. But what kind of person plans a romantic trip with another man and then sends her husband a sticky note that says, "Don't call"? That's not marriage. That's psychological warfare in yoga pants. Chuck agreed to meet me the next morning. He said technically Darla would need to sign off too, but there were ways to start the process. Informal showings, quiet interest. The kind of thing you can do when you're testing the waters, but fully ready to dive if needed. After hanging up, I sat at the table for a long time. The dogs were curled at my feet, snoring like nothing was wrong. I envied them. They loved Darla unconditionally. I don't even know if she remembered to say goodbye to them. Then I remembered the rhino. A tiny metal paperweight she bought in Cape Town during our honeymoon. Ugly thing. Oversized head, tiny legs, pure brass. She said it reminded her of me. I hated that rhino. But she always kept the emergency house key taped under it. Just in case, she'd say, smirking, as if she expected I'd lock myself out in boxers someday. I stood up, walked over to the bookshelf, lifted the rhino, and there it was, the tape still there, the key still warm from sunlight. I peeled it off and slid it into my pocket. Not because I needed it, because I wanted a reminder, a souvenir, of the last time I was naive enough to believe we were a team. Then I sat down and wrote her a letter. Not a rage-fueled explosion. Just facts. Calm. Cold. Final. I saw the emails. I'm not surprised, just disappointed it was this easy for you to be talked into hurting someone who genuinely loved you. Don't worry about the dogs. They're fine. If you need anything from the house, you'll need to call first. Lane. I folded it, put it under the rhino, and turned off all the lights. The house was mine now. For real. And tomorrow, people would be walking through it, imagining their new life inside it. While Darla was out sipping Cabernet with Hunter, her old life was quietly slipping through her fingers. Chuck showed up the next morning wearing his usual uniform. Dark jeans, blazer over a faded golf shirt, clipboard in hand like we were about to film an HGTV pilot. He didn't ask me how I slept. Probably because he could see it written all over my face. Like someone had thrown me into a cold ocean and told me to keep smiling. We walked through the house together. He made notes, snapped a few pictures of the kitchen backsplash, which Darla had insisted on even though it cost a fortune, and ran his hand along the hallway trim like he was checking for ghosts. He paused by the stairs. You sure you want to do this, Lane? I nodded. But the truth is, I didn't feel sure. I felt like a guy halfway through a movie he didn't buy tickets for. After Chuck left, I sat in my car and stared at the dashboard for a while, not really listening to the engine hum. I was supposed to be working. I had tax reports due, emails piling up, but instead I was scrolling through Darla's Instagram. Nothing new. No clues. No pictures from Asheville. Just the same curated grid of brunches, candles, and sunsets with vague captions like, "Sometimes the silence says more than words ever could." Yeah, real deep. Around 2 p.m., I noticed something weird. The motion alert from the front gate camera triggered. Usually it was just the mailman or a raccoon. But when I checked the feed, I froze. There was a man standing outside the gate. Black hoodie, ball cap pulled low, backpack slung over one shoulder. He wasn't trying to open it, just standing there, looking at the house. I zoomed in. Couldn't see his face, but something about his posture, too still, too focused, gave me that buzz in the back of my neck, like static before lightning. He stood there for almost a full minute, then walked off down the street. No car, no phone, just disappeared around the corner like he'd evaporated. I went outside, checked the gate. Nothing broken, no sign of forced anything. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this guy wasn't lost. He was watching, waiting, and somehow, I knew he had something to do with Darla. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Peter, my older brother. We hadn't spoken much since the Thanksgiving argument about politics turned into a full-blown casserole-throwing contest. But right now, pride wasn't a luxury I had. "Lane, is this real?" he said when he answered. "You finally remembered you have a sibling?" "I think Darla's seeing someone," I said flatly. "And I think he was at my house." Silence. Peter exhaled. "You want me to come over?" Yes. Yes, I did. But I couldn't say that out loud without sounding like the sad, limp-hearted little brother I'd always been. "No. Just, I might need your help with something. Something big." Peter grunted. "You sound like you're planning something stupid." "I'm not. I'm done being blindsided." That night, I couldn't sleep again. Not even a little. I kept replaying the man at the gate in my head. Who just stands like that? Who comes all the way up a long driveway, just to stare? Unless they're not coming for what's inside the house, but for who used to live in it. The next morning, I got an idea. A stupid, borderline petty, undeniably cathartic idea. And I planned to do it before Darla even checked out of her fancy hotel. She wanted me to think about how I've been acting. Fine. I was going to show her exactly what a lesson looks like. The sign was hammered into the front lawn by 9:12 a.m. Not just a subtle coming soon tag either. No, I told Chuck to go full spectacle. Bright red lettering, bold font, QR code, and a metal box with flyers tucked inside. I wanted it to be unmissable. Not just for potential buyers, but for one specific woman who would eventually check her Ring camera and wonder if hell had frozen over. It took exactly 14 minutes before my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, another call. Then a text. What is that sign? Are you out of your mind? I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the reply, heart pounding like I'd just outrun a bear. For a moment, I thought about responding. I thought about telling her everything. How I knew about Hunter, how I saw the emails, how the man at the gate made the back of my teeth buzz with dread. But instead, I muted the conversation and tossed the phone onto the couch. She wanted space. I was giving it to her. Square footage and all. At noon, the first couple showed up. Young, engaged, probably still high off Pinterest boards and espresso martinis. Chuck walked them through the place like he was unveiling a museum exhibit. I sat on the back porch, sipping bad coffee, pretending I didn't exist. But I could hear everything. Beautiful light in the kitchen, the woman said. Is the neighborhood safe? The man asked. Chuck, ever the salesman, absolutely. One of the quietest streets in this part of the city. Owners just going through a transition. That was putting it gently. By the time the third group came through, I'd memorized every crack in the patio tile. One of them, a man in his 40s with sharp shoes and a Bluetooth earpiece, stepped outside and nodded at me. You the owner? Co-owner, I said, emphasizing the co like it was a knife I was twisting. He nodded, then gestured to the yard. Nice layout. Good bones. I almost laughed. If only he knew. After the last group left, Chuck came out back. He looked at me for a long second, then handed me a bottle of water. You're holding it together better than I expected. I'm not. He nodded slowly. She call yet? She screamed over text. I didn't answer. Chuck smiled slightly. Smartest thing you've done all week. He left around 5 p.m. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. I walked through each room like I was saying goodbye to a ghost. I opened the linen closet and found one of her silk robes still hanging on the inside hook. Peach-colored. It still smelled like her perfume. I stood there with it in my hand, and for the first time all day, the weight of it all hit me square in the chest. This wasn't just a stunt anymore. It was real. If I didn't call it off, we were done. No counseling. No reconciliation arc. Just the end of a marriage that had quietly rotted from the inside out, like a peach left too long on the counter. I sat on the stairs for a while. The dogs padded over, sensing the shift in mood. I pet them absently, trying not to cry. I wanted to be strong, wanted to be the guy who wasn't fazed by betrayal, who could just flip the switch and move on. But I wasn't that guy. I was Lane, the man who made her coffee for 5 straight years, who bought her groceries based on her cycle moods, who once drove an hour just to bring her the right charger she forgot before a big meeting. And she left me for a week to teach me a lesson. A lesson she wouldn't even finish explaining. That night, around 10:47 p.m., I heard the gate buzz. I checked the camera. It was the same man in the black hoodie. But this time, he wasn't just standing there. He was smiling. I stared at the screen, the camera feed glitching just slightly, enough to give everything a surreal, almost haunted quality. The man in the hoodie was back, but this time, he wasn't some still figure lurking like a shadow. He was walking slowly along the perimeter of the gate, dragging his fingers along the iron bars, and smiling like he knew something I didn't. He wasn't trying to get in. He wasn't even calling out. Just inspecting. Leisurely. Like a man browsing open houses. Like someone who felt he already belonged here. I felt my stomach twist. My hands were clammy. But I forced myself to step outside onto the porch anyway, keeping the security app open, watching his every move through the lens even as I squinted into the actual dark beyond the motion lights. The gate was far enough that I couldn't see his face clearly, but he definitely saw me. And when our eyes met, even from a distance, he gave me a wave. A short, casual wave, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the night just like last time. I stood out there for another 20 minutes, phone in hand, debating whether to call the cops. But what was I going to say? Hey, my wife went on a romantic getaway with another guy, and now some stranger is strolling past my property looking smug? No crime, no threat, no proof. Just a gut feeling and a camera with spotty resolution. I went back inside, locked every door, then sat at the kitchen table with the lights off, waiting for my breathing to slow down. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. A text from Darla. What exactly are you doing, Lane? I ignored it. 10 minutes later, another one. Who did you tell about us? That got my attention. About us? Us who? Before I could respond, a third message came through. I'm not joking. This isn't funny anymore. What the hell did you do? And then it clicked. Her tone wasn't angry. It was nervous. Anxious. I didn't reply. Instead, I did something I hadn't dared to do since I saw her calendar blocked out. I called her. She answered on the second ring. I saw him again. I said without even saying hello. Dead silence on the other end. Then her voice. Low, hesitant. Where? At the gate. Same guy. Second time this week. Same hoodie. Same stare. This time he waved. Did he say anything? No. Why? She paused again. I could hear movement. Doors closing. Maybe drawers opening. Because Hunter, he wasn't supposed to come near the house. The rage in my chest froze into something colder. So it is him. She didn't answer. Which, frankly, was all the confirmation I needed. I thought this was about me learning a lesson, I said, my voice shaking. But now I'm finding out the guy you ditched me for is treating my home like a walking tour stop? It wasn't supposed to go like this, she muttered. I swear. I told him to stay away. He promised. Oh, great. So we're on the promise system now? Are we in high school? Jesus, Darla. She sighed, and for the first time in this entire fiasco, she actually sounded tired. Genuinely drained. I didn't plan this to blow up. The girls thought. They thought if I left for a week, maybe you'd finally realize how much of yourself you've let disappear. That you don't fight for anything anymore. That you're just passive. That word made my skin crawl. Passive. No, I wasn't passive. I was consistent. I was quiet because I didn't want to fight in a home that was supposed to be safe. I was calm because I believed being loud didn't make you right. I thought love didn't need dramatics. Apparently, I was wrong. I swallowed hard. You didn't leave to teach me anything, Darla. You left to test how much you could get away with. The line was quiet again. I thought she might hang up. But then she said something that cracked the last bit of sanity I had left. He said he wants to meet you. I froze. Excuse me. Hunter. He wants to talk. He said he wants to explain his side. His side of what exactly? And that's when she said it. He's not just some guy I'm seeing. He's someone I knew before you. The room spun a little. My pulse kicked up in my ears. I had the urge to knock everything off the counter, smash something, scream. But I didn't. I sat down instead. Very slowly. You brought an ex back into your life? I whispered. And you let him stay with you while pretending this was about me not appreciating your Spotify playlists. He's changed, she said softly. And something in me snapped. Not with rage, but with clarity. I hope so, I said. Because the next time he steps on my property, he won't get a wave. Then I ended the call. The silence afterward felt like the deepest sound I'd ever heard. I knew what I had to do next. And it wasn't selling the house. I didn't sleep. Again. I tried, I really did. But my brain wouldn't turn off. It just kept replaying the words, he wants to meet you, over and over like some broken song lyric etched into the walls. The fact that Darla thought that was even remotely appropriate was beyond me. Like this was some mutual breakup with respect and talking points, instead of what it actually was, betrayal wrapped in fake empowerment. By 6:30 a.m., I was up, pacing the kitchen with a mug of burnt coffee and a head full of noise. I needed to do something. Anything. Just sitting still felt like surrender, and I was done surrendering. I opened the junk drawer. That endless drawer of batteries that may or may not work, dried up pens, expired coupons, and keys to God knows what. But tucked at the very back, behind an old leash and a cracked pair of sunglasses, was something I hadn't seen in years. A thick, cream-colored envelope with Darla's handwriting on the front. One word, Lane. I remembered it instantly. She gave it to me 2 weeks before our wedding. Said it was for after the first big fight. I was supposed to read it when I felt lost, hurt, unsure why we were even trying. Back then, I'd laughed, kissed her forehead, and tucked it away like a love token. I never needed it. Until now. My fingers trembled slightly as I broke the seal. Inside were 3 pages, handwritten in blue ink. Her loops and curves were messier than usual, rushed but honest. I skimmed it first, not wanting to get sucked into nostalgia, but before I knew it, I was reading every word. She wrote about her fears, how she always ran when things got hard, how she sabotaged things before they had the chance to fall apart on their own, how I was different, patient in ways that scared her, how she hoped that if she ever forgot how rare that was, I'd read the letter and remind her of the man I was. It would have gutted me a week ago. Hell, even 2 days ago. But now, it just pissed me off. Because that woman, the one who wrote this, would never have disappeared into a spa weekend with her ex while her husband fed the dogs and listed the house. That woman would have fought for us, not farmed her loyalty out to 3 bitter wine witches and someone named Hunter. I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and slid it into the fireplace. I didn't light it. Not yet. But I needed it there. A visual, a pending funeral. An hour later, Peter showed up. My brother. The only person I trusted to speak truth to my face, even when I didn't want to hear it. He didn't knock. He just walked in like he owned the place, saw me sitting in the armchair with 2 mugs on the table, and took the hint. You look like someone who found out their wife was cheating on them with a ghost, he said. I blinked at him. What? You look haunted. Pale. Sleep-deprived. Angry, but like, emotionally repressed angry, the kind that causes ulcers. Thanks, Peter. He took a sip of coffee, then leaned back. So tell me what the hell is going on. I told him everything. From the moment she left to the sticky note, to the emails, to the guy at the gate, to the call last night. He didn't interrupt once. Not until I got to the part about the request to meet Hunter. Peter snorted. Jesus, that's some TV drama level nonsense. What is this? Wife swap, weaponized edition. I wanted to laugh, but my jaw was too tight. I don't know what she wants anymore, I said. 1 minute I'm the villain. The next she wants me to meet the guy she's cheating with. And I'm supposed to what? Shake his hand. Talk about feelings? Peter leaned forward. No, you don't meet him. Why not? Because that gives him power. That makes him real. Right now, he's just a shadow. A trespassing, hoodie-wearing shadow. The moment you sit down across from him, you make him part of your story. And this shouldn't be his story. That hit harder than I expected. Because he was right. I didn't need to meet Hunter. I needed to erase him. Not literally, obviously. I'm not crazy. But I needed to strip him of the place he'd taken in my mind. And the only way to do that was to take full control of the thing I'd been avoiding for years. My marriage. Or rather, the end of it. I stood up, walked to the safe in the bedroom closet, pulled out our prenup, the one she never thought we'd need, and dusted it off. I want a lawyer, I said. Today. Peter nodded. Now you're talking. Because this wasn't about teaching lessons anymore. This was about graduation. And Darla was about to find out what happens when the quiet one finally stands up during the group project and rewrites the ending. The lawyer's office smelled like lemon polish and quiet judgment. Sleek black chairs, frosted glass doors, and a receptionist who smiled like she knew every dirty secret that had ever been whispered across that lobby. I sat alone in the waiting area for 10 minutes, thumbing through a magazine I didn't actually read, trying to convince myself I wasn't overreacting. That filing for divorce wasn't premature or spiteful. That this wasn't a meltdown. This was strategy. When the lawyer, a woman named Reese Morrow, sharp suit, sharper eyes, finally called me in, she didn't waste time. I reviewed your prenup, she said, flipping through pages like they were light work. You're in a strong position. No shared kids, no joint businesses, and the house is under your name only. If you want out, Lane, you could be out in under 45 days. 45 days. That's how long it would take to erase 5 years of my life. Do you want me to send her the papers directly? She asked. Or do you want to deliver them yourself? I stared at the ceiling for a moment, jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. I want her to see them when she walks through the front door. Reese nodded slowly. We can do that. By the time I got home, the decision felt less like a bomb and more like surgery, painful, but precise. I wasn't trying to destroy Darla. I was just cutting out the rot she brought into our life. And it wasn't revenge. It was return. I was returning the same energy she gave me when she handed me that sticky note and vanished for a week of wine and someone else's cologne. I spent the next few hours cleaning the house like a man possessed. Not out of panic, but preparation. Every room had to look pristine, organized, unapologetic. I wanted her to walk in and feel like she was the guest, not the victim. The coffee table was clear. Her photos were packed. Her side of the closet was boxed. Her vanity emptied. Everything had its place. Except her. At exactly 6:43 p.m., the gate camera lit up. It was her. Alone. No Hunter. No bags. No sunglasses. She stood at the gate for a full 20 seconds, staring into the camera like she wasn't sure she'd even be let in. I buzzed her through. I stayed seated in the living room as the door opened. I didn't stand. I didn't rush. I waited. When she stepped in, the first thing she noticed wasn't the boxes. It was the envelope on the coffee table. Thick, sealed, labeled with her full name, Darla Noel Barrett. "What is this?" she asked, already knowing. "Read it," I said simply. She didn't move. "Lane, I don't think this is necessary." "Darla," I interrupted, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. "You made your move. This is mine." She picked up the envelope like it might burn her fingers, slid one nail under the flap. Her eyes darted across the first page, and I saw her face shift, not from shock, but from recognition. She knew this was coming. Deep down, she had to have known. "You're filing," she said quietly. "No," I replied. "I already filed." She sat down without asking. Her hands trembled slightly, and I hated how part of me still wanted to steady them. That soft, codependent instinct I'd spent years feeding. "I didn't. I never wanted it to go this far," she said. "Hunter, he wasn't supposed to be. He was just temporary." I cut in. "A warm body to remind you still had options?" She looked at me, stunned. "You think I planned this?" "I think you escaped into it." I leaned forward. "I think you left because you didn't want to face the slow, uncomfortable truth that you were bored. That marriage didn't come with the applause your friends promised. And instead of working through that with me, you let them convince you that the problem was me not performing hard enough for your approval." Silence. Then her voice, soft, small, like a child. "You're not angry?" I laughed, bitterly. "Darla, I was angry 5 days ago. Then I got scared. Then I got numb. And now? Now I'm just done." She put the papers down gently, stared at the floor. "You're really doing this?" "You asked me to think about how I've been acting," I said. "I did. And you know what I realized? I've been surviving you for a long time. Not loving you. Not growing with you. Just surviving the cold, the sarcasm, the silent punishments." Her lip quivered. "I was trying to push you to fight for me." "No," I said. "You were pushing to see how far you could go before I stopped chasing." And now I had. She wiped at her face, stood slowly, and for a second, she looked like the woman I fell in love with. Same eyes, same voice, same weight of someone who used to believe in us. But she wasn't that person anymore. And neither was I. She opened her mouth to speak, but the dogs padded in and barked softly, sensing the tension. She looked down at them, then back at me, then nodded. "I'll come back for my things tomorrow." "No need," I said. "They'll be in storage by noon." She didn't argue. She just turned and walked out the door. This time, she didn't slam it. She didn't look back when she left. That was the part that stuck with me. Not the boxes, not the silence, not even the envelope she left behind on the table. Just the absence of that final glance. Like she knew there was nothing left to salvage, nothing left to mourn. And honestly, I think that's what I needed. It's been 27 days since that night. The house is quieter now, not empty, just peaceful. The kind of quiet that doesn't press on your chest, but lets you breathe again. I still hear echoes of her sometimes. Not her voice, but the way she used to close cabinet doors too loud. The way her phone used to buzz every 10 seconds. The way her presence filled the room even when she wasn't speaking. But those echoes get softer every day. The divorce was finalized faster than I expected. She didn't contest it. She didn't send long messages, or guilt trips, or teary voicemails. Just a clean break. I think part of her was relieved too, that someone had finally made the hard choice she was too scared to. The day the paperwork went through, I took the dogs for a walk in the park near the lake. Same route we used to take when we first moved here. I brought coffee in a thermos, let them off leash for a bit, and sat on a bench watching the water ripple under the wind. It was the first time in months that I didn't feel like a failure. Just free. And you know what's wild? I started smiling again. Not forced. Not performative. Real, small smiles that come when a breeze hits your face just right, or when a stranger compliments your dog, or when you find the exact brand of soup you like back in stock after 3 weeks. I started cooking again. Real meals. For me. With music playing. Not because I had to, not because someone was judging the presentation, but because I wanted to eat something warm and good. I even rearranged the kitchen, moved the plates to a lower cabinet, got rid of all the mismatched mugs, donated the wine glasses, bought a new coffee maker, one that doesn't beep obnoxiously. Chuck sold the house, not the one I was living in, but another property I'd secretly invested in 2 years ago. I'd forgotten I even had it. The sale gave me just enough cushion to take some time off work, slow down, and reset. And then, last Thursday, something unexpected happened. I went to a local art gallery. Don't laugh. I've never been an art guy, but I'd passed this place for years without going in. So I did. And while I was there, sipping cheap white wine and pretending to understand abstract oil on canvas, I struck up a conversation with someone. Her name's Ivy. She's a graphic designer. Quieter than Darla. Softer, the kind of person who listens without already preparing her next sentence. We talked for 2 hours about fonts and road trips, and why coffee always tastes better out of ceramic mugs. She laughed at one of my dumb jokes, genuinely, and when she smiled, it didn't feel like performance. It felt like invitation. No, I'm not rushing anything. I'm not naive. But I gave her my number. And when she texted me later that night, I smiled again. That same small, quiet, real smile I thought I'd lost. Because healing doesn't always look like fireworks or movie montages. Sometimes it's subtle, quiet, earned. Like the moment you wake up and realize you slept through the night. Like deleting a shared calendar and not feeling a single twinge. Like opening the curtains and letting light in without thinking about who's not there to see it. So yeah, Darla left me to teach me a lesson. But the real lesson was how much strength lives in the man I became after she was gone. And honestly, the air feels different now. And for the first time in a long, long while, I like the way it feels.